I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. We're just a minute or so away from beginning the meeting, and before we begin, I'd invite you to stand and join me in the pledge, and then Mike Overton will bring the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Dear God, we come before you with humble hearts, thanking you for all the many blessings you bestow upon us. We ask that you hand out, that you provide your helping hand for those that are sick and suffering. And be with us tonight as we deliberate and help us to make sound decisions for the benefit of all. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you, Mike. All right. I will now call this regular meeting of the Springdale City Council to order. This is Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021. We do have large print agendas available. I think they're over there by Colby and Wyman, if that would be helpful to anyone. And we'll start things off by asking our city clerk to call the roll.
Mayor Sprouse.
Here.
Brian Powell.
Here.
Amelia Williams. Jeff Watson.
Here.
Mike Overton.
Here.
Mike Lawson.
Here.
Kevin Flores.
Here.
Randall Harriman. Mark Fujarus.
Here.
Ernest Kate.
Here.
All right, thank you. Item 4 is the portion of each meeting that the council sets aside to hear comments from our citizens. We would welcome any comments from any citizens that would like to address the council. We only ask that you come to the microphone. Please state your name and address. Keep your comments brief, and understand that the council won't take action tonight on anything that you bring forward. Is there anyone that would like to address the council concerning an item that is not already on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, approval of minutes. Council, you've had an opportunity to look these over. If there are no additions or changes, I would entertain a motion to approve them as presented.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Item 6, procedural motions. What's your pleasure there, council?
Move for Andy. Second.
A motion and a second for both 6A and B. Roll call, please.
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Flores.
Yes, ma'am.
Fujarus.
Yes.
Powell.
Yes.
Carry 6-0.
All right, thank you. And Patsy's on her way. This is a Planning Commission report and recommendations by Patsy Christie, Director of Planning and Community Development.
The first item on the agenda is a request to rezone 5 acres located at 7655 West Gibbs Road from A1 to a planned unit development. First, I'd like to point out that the 5 acres is less than what is allowed in the PUD. The applicant applied for a variance, and the Planning Commission granted the variance by unanimous vote to allow the PUD size to be reduced to 5 acres. The Planning Commission, after review, recommends approval of this rezoning request. The title of the ordinance reads an ordinance amending ordinance number 3307, the same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Springdale, Arkansas, and the plat pertaining thereto, by rezoning certain lands from agricultural district A1 to planned unit development PUD and declaring an emergency. And as you'll remember, and as we've talked about in the past, a PUD comes along with it a planned unit development plan and a site plan and covenants that go along with the subdivision, so we know what is the project that we're getting through this PUD rezoning. And as I said, the tract is a 5-acre tract. The comprehensive land use plan indicates medium residential use for this area. The developer intends to begin construction as quickly as is practical once construction plans are approved by all appropriate regulatory entities, and anticipates doing this in 18 months, and it will be a single-phase project. The development strategy is to have a PUD with 26 single-family residential lots. Residential is the only use allowed in this subdivision. There will be no commercial uses. The developer intends to build and sell or lease homes on all lots. All homes will face either the central primary street or toward Gibbs Road, and all will include rear load garages with driveway access from the alleyways which run along the rear of the lots. The typical lot size will be 35 feet wide by 100 to 110 feet long. The permitted use, as I said, would be a use unit 1, which is citywide public uses by right. Use unit 8 was a single-family dwellings. Use unit 9, which is zero lot line. Use unit 34, which is a mobile home temporary marketing office, because they anticipate having a temporary office while they're marketing the units. The density at 26 single-family lots on 5 acres is 5.2 units per acre. They are providing 20% open space. The ordinance requires 15%. The building setbacks will have a 10-foot front setback, a 10-foot on one side, and a 0-foot on the other side, and a 15-foot rear setback. The development will also include a large open green space area at the south end with parking, a play structure, picnic benches, and a barbecue grill. The style of the homes that they are proposing is not available in the area according to the HUD concept and narrative. It will be similar to those found along the west end of Harbor Meadows HUD between Jones Road and JTL's Parkway. Streetscapes due to the reduced front setbacks and absence of front garages with utility pedestals, trash collection, and driveways out of sight behind the home. The HUD proposed will include houses with a single side yard with a rear load garage accessing rear alleyways in a similar configuration to the Harbor Meadow houses. The spacing of houses, the reduced front yards, and the absence of driveways along the primary street will create an inviting space with a strong sense of community. As I said, the front setback will be 10 feet, and they will have a zero lot line on one side and a 10-foot setback along the second side. The rear setbacks are proposed to be 15 feet, which is identical to the rear setbacks for those 24 lots, or those lots in Harbor Meadows phase 28, or 18, sorry. Each home is required to have a rear load garage with capacity for at least 2 vehicles. The front loading garages or direct access to Gibbs Road or the Central Street are prohibited. The covenants will provide requirements regarding any accessory structures to be placed on the lot. The primary building materials will include brick, stone, manufactured stone, wood, and concrete siding such as Hardy brand. Vinyl will be allowed only for the soffits or fascia. As I said, the developer intends to build, then sell, or lease homes on all lots. However, they are reserving the right to sell the lots. Plans and elevations of sample single-family homes which are similar in appearance was presented, but they will have an ARC committee that has to approve all the housing designs. There is a large POA lot with parking on the south side in that 20% of the open space. It will include a top lot with play structures, picnic benches, and barbecue grills. An easement access between lot blocks will allow pedestrians to access the POA lot from the central street without having to walk to the end of the development. The home builder will be responsible for installation of 1 tree per lot during housing construction. Installation of a tree is a requirement prior to issuance of a C of O, and the homeowner shall be responsible for the tree's maintenance, which means if it dies, they have to put it back. Developer will install trees and landscaping in common areas as shown on the landscaping plans, and it will be the responsibility of the POA to maintain those trees. They're using 3 different street sections in this project. The east section of Street A is will have a landscape median with curb and gutter through the middle of the street. This portion of the street will have a 60-foot wide right-of-way and measure 50 feet from backup curb to backup curb. Sidewalks will be installed along both sides. No parking is allowed on this portion of the street. The next section of the street will be between the 2 intersections with alleyways, has lots frontages of the street, and does not include a median. This portion of the street will have a 53-foot wide right-of-way and 5-foot sidewalks and 7-foot parking lanes along each side of the street. The alley will be 15 feet wide and will have a 20-foot wide right-of-way. No curb and gutter or sidewalks are proposed for the alleys, and no parking on the alleyways. And parking on the alleyway is prohibited. In addition to these interior streets, the project will include improving the west side of West Gibbs Road to Master Street Plan requirements, the full width of the piece of property. That will include dedicating the right-of-way, widening the street, adding curb and gutter, installing sidewalks, and installing drainage improvements when necessary. And it will have one single connection to West Gibbs Road. Signage for the subdivision will consist of a single monument sign in the median of the central street near the intersection of Gibb Road, which will be constructed with primarily stone brick and or metal. The covenants go on to indicate that fences will be only fences constructed of wood or wrought iron may be installed. There should be no other fences allowed. All privacy fences shall be constructed so that the framing shall be toward the inside of the owner's lot, shall be constructed at a height of 6 feet to maintain uniformity. Any fence once constructed must be retained by the property owner. The covenants indicate that no noxious or offensive activities or nuisance shall be permitted on any lot or parcel. No sign shall be erected on any lot except real estate signs and or for sale signs that apply to the developer during development and construction. No animals shall be kept or maintained on any lot except household pets, which shall be kept reasonably confined so as not to become a nuisance. They have to have garbage pickup. The city ordinance requires that. There will be no access to any lot on the perimeter except from designated streets. No drilling, refining, quarrying, or mining operations. No communications, mast, tower, or structure may be installed on any lot, except that satellite dishes may be installed only on the rear roof of the dwelling and shall not exceed the height of the lowest roof ridge line of such dwelling. Parking shall be allowed along both sides of the central street. No vehicles may be parked in yards at any time. No semi-trailer trucks or commercial vehicles will be allowed to park in the subdivision either on the streets or the lots. With the exception of moving trucks, they'll be allowed on a short-term basis. Recreational and camping vehicles, trailers, and boats may not be stored on or parked on the lots. The minimum square footage of all dwellings shall have a minimum of 800 square feet of heated area on the first floor and 1,300 square feet overall for all floors, that exclusive of garages, porches, patios, and decks. The only way that minimum square footage can be amended is approved by the developer and through an amendment to the PUD ordinance itself. Nothing but single-family dwellings with an attached garage. They have set up an architectural review committee to be established as part of this covenant, and they have the procedures on how it's to be established and maintained. As I said, all the exterior materials have to be brick, stone, manufactured stone, wood, or concrete. Soffits and fascia may be covered with steel, vinyl, aluminum, or concrete. Composition material or roof pitches shall be a minimum of 612. No metal roofs shall be permitted. Roofs shall be covered with shingles using architectural composition or better. All lots will be maintained, mowed, and kept free of noxious weeds, whether they are be improved or unimproved. There is the restriction if the owner allows grass to grow such that is more than 4 inches high. The developer or the POA shall have the right but not obligation to have it mowed without giving notice to the owner and charge $75 or the amount it costs the developer association to have it mowed. And as I said, each lot has to have a tree planted, and it's the homeowner's responsibility to maintain that tree. The covenants run with the land, and if the property is sold, the covenants transfer with it, as does the PUD agreement itself. No person who is required to register as a sex offender will be allowed they would be allowed to rent, reside, or own or occupy any lot or dwelling in the subdivision, either permanently or temporarily. And they have the procedure for setting up the Cadence Crossing Home Association. And it has the procedure on how all of that's to be set up. I got to go through those details and go on the team, but it's a standard creation of that with duties, bylaws, their ability to assess liens and the effective non-payment of assessments and the lien remedies of the association. The only other thing is the association will have the responsibility of maintaining any detention ponds situated in the common properties and shall use assessments as provided for such purpose. At the present time, it is shown to have a detention pond, but it's my understanding that they are working with the engineering department and the subdivision that's going in next door to eliminate that detention pond, and then we'll go through the adjoining subdivision and the access or the drainage easement they obtained that goes all the way down to the lake. So I can go over any more details if you need more, but that's basically what this PUD will be, and with the adoption of the ordinance, you get all that stuff in place. Questions?
During the planning commission, wasn't there another drawing that was showing the design where you could actually see it?
Yeah, and I thought that was put in your packet. Did y'all like the drawing?
No.
It's a simple layout that goes one entrance into with a loop street that goes around. The central drive goes straight through, and then it will have alleyways that come back on the backside of each one of those.
That would have been very helpful.
That's the preliminary plat that goes along with this preliminary what plat was approved at the same time.
I move that we table this until we get the drawing.
And at planning, there was not any opposition there, was it?
There was one lady who asked about the improvements that were to be done to West Gibbs Road, and we explained all that, and that was the only question.
So what are these structures going to be? Are they going to be different structures in there? Are they going to be similar? Has that been brought to planning commission?
Two-story townhomes, similar to what you see in Harbor. They gave some examples, but all of the designs have to go through the ARC committee for their approval before they can get a building permit for each one of these, and they have to have the minimums that we discussed with the materials that's included in this.
So did they provide drawings basically for these townhomes also?
They provided some samples, not the actual drawings of the structures themselves.
So the materials are laid out in the
materials
PUD
allotments
agreement.
can be used, yes,
Yeah.
that's correct. And keep in mind, there's 0 lot lines, so one side will be 0, it will be the width of the structure, and then there will be a 10-foot space, and that's to be fenced off. And they have rear loading garages, similar to what you see on Harbor, on Founders Park Drive when you go to Harbor, same kind of situation.
So what does it mean that there's a single access to Gibbs Road?
There is one access that comes off of Gibbs Road.
Is it Gibbs Road up there to the?
No, it's the one on the east side.
It's to the right. And then it continues as Gibbs, doesn't it? Yeah, if you make the turn to the west. Yeah.
I can do it. My hands
Yeah.
is not too shaky. There will be an access that comes off through here. There will be a single row of lots here that you access from the back. And then this goes in here, and then there will be alleys that comes back around on each side like that. One access in, that's all you
Was there
get.
discussion with the fire department about the single access?
The small number, there's only 26 units. Fire code goes into effect when there's 30 or more. So they don't have to have a second access point. And the fire trucks have the ability to go around the loops and come back out.
On one of the streets?
I'll have to go back and read it to you.
Is there any restrictions to parking on the streets?
Said parking on both
The
sides.
main street
Okay.
that goes in that, where all of the houses front onto it will be 53 feet wide with 5-foot sidewalks and a 7-foot parking lane along each side of the street. And that will be the area they are allowed to park along the street. And then when you look at this area, the green space is all down along the southern portion of this where the utility easement is, and there will be additional extra parking in this area for guests if there's not enough room.
Patsy, do you have anything showing if we did some quick subtraction? If we had parking on both sides, say the 7 foot on both sides, how wide the drive lanes would be? Do we have any way to figure that?
It's a
52,
50-foot.
Yeah, but that's right away, isn't it?
right-of-way.
Yeah. I wonder how wide this actual
It's
pavement
50
is.
foot, 53-foot wide right-of-way with 5-foot sidewalks. Brad, can you do that calculation real quick? I'm not any good at doing that. I can draw it out, but I can't get to it just calculating it out. is it 10.5 foot lanes with a 7-foot parking space? So that'd be 21 foot plus.
You're going to be somewhere around 40 feet of pavement then, from what it sounds like.
Because it's got parking on both sides.
And then you take 14 off of that. That's 26, so the 12 or 13 foot driving lane.
It's 30, this is Blake.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, this length inside, it's 35 foot back to curve. And Patty, I don't know if it's possible for me to share my screen, but I can show you a picture of the subdivision if that would help.
That would be great.
It's 35.
Yeah, so that's going to get down to about 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is okay for a neighborhood. And that's with cars parked on both sides.
For all electric cars.
Blake.
Yes. I can't share my.
We're working on it.
Oh, there we go.
We're working on it.
There we go.
There you are.
Okay. Share screen. Oh, it still says disabled. 1 second.
Okay, can you allow him to share the screen?
Here we go.
Okay, there we go. It's working out. All right. Can y'all see my screen?
Not yet.
We've got the, there you go. Now we got it.
Okay, you're gonna have to make it smaller.
1 second.
No, it was there, you can see it from there, it was at 35 feet less than
Yeah.
15.
Can you get rid of the pictures on the sides and have the full screen?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I don't work with my laptop very often without a mouse. So there it is. Okay, it should pop up here in a second.
There you go.
There we go.
That illustrates the one access in and out with the alleys wrapped around it and the central street with parking on both sides.
So you said Main Street, so are you referring to the street down the middle, is that
Yes.
right? And what about the ones that go around on the sides?
Those are alleys that
Oh,
go
wow.
around to the side. You have one main street that comes off of Gibbs Road that has a median when you first come off. Then when you get down to the other area, it is one street and then it's one way around to the alleys.
So those are, they're rear load garages.
Right, out of the
So
alleyways.
so the trash trucks and people go into their garages. Okay.
Right.
What are the 6 lots on the east?
They will load from the back. They will not have frontage. There will not be any driveways on Gibbs Road. Everything loads off of those alleyways.
So which way do they face though?
They face out toward Gibbs Road, and the back of it will be along those alleyways.
They face out towards Gibbs?
Uh-huh. Those 6. And then the rest of them face each other. And there would only be one single access off of Gibbs Road.
Okay, I'm not clear where the alley is for those 6.
The ones when you come back around.
Oh, I see. Well,
These
I see.
three
I
off
see.
of this
Okay.
alleyway, and these three
I got
off
you.
of that alleyway here.
Okay, thank
And
you.
where's the green space?
Green space is on the south end. Like, can you move the drawing up just a little bit? You can see there's the parking areas, there's some excess parking, there's some landscaping in there. Like, can you move your drawing up a little bit? Blake, did we lose you?
I think he's trying.
Okay.
So there's a sidewalk along Gibbs in front of those 6
Right.
houses?
And then there's sidewalks along the main street going into it. And then that gray area down through there is so that those people can access the open space without having to come all the way out to the front.
What's the parking along Gibbs?
There's no parking along Gibbs.
There will be no parking?
No
along
parking along Gibbs.
Gibbs?
I think is it designated as a collector street on the master street plan?
There you go, Blake. Thank you.
They show no parking along Gibbs.
Sorry, I lost audio there for a second. If y'all were asking me questions, I
Okay.
apologize. Yes, currently there's no parking shown along Gibbs, and I can probably answer the question on the master plan. Let me look that up real quick while we continue.
I mean, we're intending no parking along Gibbs Road for those 6 houses either. And then you see there's some additional parking in the subdivision on the west side. in that green space area.
So what does that mean? There's no parking shown along Gibbs. Does that mean people can't park there? It's like a city
Public
ordinance?
street, they can.
Well, it would be designated as no parking areas with the appropriate signing, just like we do any other place on public street. You can't park there. But the interior street, you would be able to park on either side.
Yeah, I understand.
So Blake, if you're 35 feet minus 14 for the parking, that leaves 21, so 10 and a half foot lanes? Or,
Yes, sir.
okay. About what we got on Emma, isn't it?
So looking at the
Yeah.
four corners, because I'm trying to look at it from a fire department standpoint, would an engine truck be able to make that corner?
I'm sure they looked at that, but I don't,
Yes, they
Yeah.
have a chance to look at all that stuff, and they can provide, now, they can get to the structure from the street itself. The distance is not too wide, and then they use those alleyways if they ever get to turn around and come back out.
the real
I
answer
don't
is
think they anticipate
they'll
that.
get where they have to get. But I think the
My
chief,
question was, could a trash truck get around
Yeah,
those corners?
right.
Because that's really what has to make it on a regular
Right.
basis, or a delivery truck. Did you say? Okay.
And I can interject on the fire if needed. This is not designed for Arkansas Appendix D of the fire code. You can see it bumps out a little bit here. It's a little bit wider. That is so that it meets code.
So I appreciate Blake's letting us look at his screen, but Jeff brought up a good point where we need this paperwork to be able to thoroughly review this before it comes to a vote.
Okay. Usually you get the site plan with it, and I can't answer for why it's not there. I do know that the PUD document was there, and the covenants were there this time, which we were missing last time. So I guess we're getting close. And this is a preliminary plat that goes with it too, which the preliminary plat was reviewed as well.
So how many more documents are we missing that the planning commission reviewed?
That's it. This is what you get in the planning commission packet. If you got a copy of the planning commission packet, you would have gotten the same thing there too.
So inside the subdivision, is there or is there no parking in front of those residents?
There is parking in front of those residents on that main street that goes in.
But there's none on Gibbs.
There's
So
none
the
on-
6 houses on Gibbs is just rear parking only.
Correct.
Well, no.
Well, they can go and park in front of one of these little houses down here. I'm not gonna take
There
it.
would be rear parking, and only in garage part.
They can come in and park for themselves. Visitors would have to either park down here in these extra spaces or in front of somebody else's structure.
well, unless there was room in their driveway. I mean, if there's room in their driveway, they can park in there. Visitors can.
It'd be driveway parking for those 6.
Or down the street.
We have an ordinance against that.
Huh?
We have an ordinance against that.
Only for an extended period of time, and that's without the owner's permission.
Blocking, posting the mailbox,
Mhm.
records.
I don't think you're gonna see mailboxes in each one of those, each one of these
Well,
lots.
yeah.
There'll be a central mail facility for this. That's the only way the post office lets it go through now. We don't do door-to-door deliveries very often on the new stuff.
Those 6 houses are going to be parking everywhere.
Kevin, was that a second to his motion?
I got a few more questions, just for clarity. So the last time this happened, and I understand, but you guys had just moved to a different building, and you had internet connection issues and such, but
We're getting better.
But we need to have a consistency here in having all the documents that we need to thoroughly review this to make the right decision. So I will second Jeff's motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to table until the next meeting, till the next council meeting.
Yes, sir.
So that's 3 weeks. Okay. Any further discussion? We will deal with the motion in a second. All right. Roll call.
Overton,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Flores,
Yes, ma'am.
Fugierus,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Tabled 6-0.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Patsy.
The next item is a request to rezone, can you get back to my slides? Okay. There you go. The next item is to rezone 2.5 acres located on 3444 Wagonville Road. The request is to rezone the property from A1 to C5. Planning Commission reviewed this request and unanimously recommends approval of the ordinance. The title of the ordinance reads, an ordinance amending ordinance number 3307, the same meaning the zoning ordinance of the city of Springdale, Arkansas, the plat pertaining thereto, by rezoning certain land from agricultural district A1 to thoroughfare commercial district C5 and declaring emergency.
Do you have anything that shows what the surrounding properties are zoned?
The property just to the east of this is still A1. It has a business on it that was in existence when it's annexed. The corner has been rezoned to C2 because carpet one went in there. The property right across the street is still zoned A1, but we have a request to rezone that. Across the street, there are two structures that are rezoned to C2, and one of them was in existence when it was annexed into the area. So there's a mixture of all that kind of stuff.
Okay, thank you. And what is the planning zoning there?
It shows commercial for this area.
Just probably not all the way down that, but it's
No.
closer to the interstate.
Right, we're getting to the limits of it down through here. Yes,
Then C5 for attractive, limit.
yes.
I move the ordinance passed.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Denise?
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Flores.
Yes, ma'am.
Fugierus.
Yes.
Powell.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Move emergency clause be adopted.
I second that.
Flores.
Yes, ma'am.
Fugierus.
Yes.
Powell.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Both the ordinance emergency clause carries 6-0.
Next item is a request to rezone 11.65 acres located at 1609 Old Road. This property is being split. Request to rezone this property from Light Industrial District I1 to General Industrial District I2. Planning Commission recommends approval of this rezoning request. The title of the ordinance reads, an ordinance amending ordinance number 3307, the same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Springdale, Arkansas, the plat pertaining thereto, by rezoning certain land from Light Industrial District I1 to General Industrial District C2 and declaring an emergency.
Move the ordinance be adopted. Can you remind us what that's going to be used for?
Anything that's considered to be heavy industrial is allowed in an I2 zone. We don't have a large-scale development plan for that, but it's usually industries that create more of a noise, environmental issues as far as that's concerned. They would have to provide adequate buffers around it. The rest of the property is zoned I1 around it. If what was Danaher come in today, it would probably have to have been I2 at the time. I don't know when they went to come in. So.
The parcel to the north is the old drop forge,
Yes.
drop forge.
Yes.
Yes. And it's being used for other purposes right now, but this is splitting off this southern portion of that. Keep in mind, we rezone for anything that is allowed in that zoning district. We do not rezone for a specific project unless we're doing planning and development. Then you know what you're going to get. Anything that's allowed in an I2 is allowed in that zoning district once it's rezoned.
I saw it.
Was that a second, Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
What is the, you said it's the Springdale Road, what is that on the east side?
That's a rural spot.
It's a what?
A rural spot.
Oh, it's a road?
Yeah, that's a spur.
It's spot.
That's the residential area around Bayari, correct? To the east?
And
Okay.
it's on the other side of the drainage.
Right, there's a large drainage there.
Yeah. But that railroad spar's been there for a long time.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions before I ask for the vote? Okay, Denise?
Fugierus.
Yes.
Powell.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Flores.
Yes, ma'am.
If emergency clause be adopted.
Second.
Powell,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Overton,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Flores,
Yes, ma'am.
Fugierus.
Yes.
Both ordinance for emergency clause carried 6-0.
The next item is a request for a waiver of sidewalks being required in conjunction with a single-family home being built at 913 South Spring Creek Road. This is kind of a unique piece of property that kind of got split off when the highway first went through and built the 612 bypass, and basically now they would be required to do sidewalks along Spring Creek Road, and then that access that goes to the access road that the highway department built to attract this river onto the west. Planning Commission reviewed this request and recommends waiver of the sidewalk improvements in conjunction with a single-family home. It's kind of out there all by itself. We don't normally recommend sidewalk waivers, but this is kind of a unique situation.
That was unanimous.
Yes, it is.
I couldn't pull this up in my map, but this is the bypass heading west towards the airport, right? And then you, if you keep going under the interstate, there's a neighborhood to the left, to the north of this, correct?
Right, and this split in this piece of property, and this unusual track was created because of the way the road cuts through there, and they had to add this, where we back up. They had to add this access road, which you can't see under the trees here, to get to this piece of property over here, because you can't leave properties landlocked, and I would imagine this was an uneconomic remnant that someone decided to retain, and now they're going to build a house on it. So the planning commission is recommending option one to grant the waiver.
Move the resolution pass with option one.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? Roll call.
Watson,
Yes.
Overton,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Flores,
Yes, ma'am.
Fugierus.
Yes.
Powell.
Yes.
Carried 6-0.
All right, thank you. We'll move on now to item 8, Finance Committee report, and Chairman Jeff Watson. Jeff?
Thank you. Finance Committee forwarded the item 8A, an ordinance to authorize the mayor to enter into a contract with the downtown Springdale Alliance. It increased the payment to the Alliance. That ordinance was forwarded to the council with a recommendation for approval, and the title to the ordinance reads, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with the downtown Springdale Alliance to promote, preserve, and enhance downtown Springdale, and to facilitate the implementation of the downtown master plan, to waive competitive bidding and for other purposes.
Thank you. Jeff, let me point something out, and Ernest may want to pick up on this, but I believe there was one stipulation we added, and it was at the request of Councilman Lawson, that in the future that any request for an increase be made during budget time, and you'll find that, Ernest, I think it's on that second.
It's on the top of page 3 of the
Okay.
proposed contract.
At the end of that paragraph, in case.
Page 46 of the packet.
Yeah, and I think that adequately addresses the concern. So that's the change that's been made. Any other changes since committee? Okay. And Luke Parson, who is Luke, I guess you're on the DSA, but I think you're the immediate past chair, right, of the Downtown Springdale Alliance, if you have any further questions. Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion, so.
Move the ordinance pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any further questions or comments? Anyone? Okay, Denise?
Overton,
No.
Lawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Flores,
Yes, ma'am.
Fugierus,
No.
Powell,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Mayor?
We had 4. I will be the 5th vote to pass. I vote yes.
It carries 5-2. It does have an emergency clause. If you don't pass the emergency clause, it can go into effect in 30 days. If there's no motion.
I don't really think there's any need for an emergency clause. I don't know of any. Okay.
So the second item, really wasn't considered by the finance committee, but I think it's appropriate if the ordinance passed, which it just did, the budget needs to be amended to reflect the change from 50,000 to 100,000. That resolution, title of that resolution reads, the resolution amending the 2021 budget of the administrative department.
Move the resolution pass. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further comments or questions? Okay, Denise?
Lawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Flores,
Yes, ma'am.
Fugierus,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Overton,
No.
Carries 5-1.
Okay, thank you. Item 9, Parks and Recreation Committee, Chairman Mike Lawson. Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. We had one item last week, and it was recommended and moved forward for approval. Albeit it's a resolution authorizing the release of a conservation easement on property owned by the city of Springdale. I'll just turn it to Ernest.
Thank you. We're working with the Northwest Arkansas Land Trust regarding the acreage surrounding Rabbit Foot Lodge. This is the first step in the process, is to release the current conservation easement as they're working on a new one. And I believe they've actually got a appointment scheduled for next Tuesday to tour the property with Chad, take a good look at it. They sought our input on what we'd like to see in this new conservation easement. So this is the first step in that process.
Ernest, was there any mention about the spring?
I did make them aware of that. That was on our.
That would be in the new negotiation, has nothing to do with this.
That's
We'll
correct.
make sure that's included.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you remembered that. I hadn't thought of that.
I did make them aware of it.
Move the resolution passed.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Roll call.
Flores,
I can't hear you. Yes.
Flores,
Yes, ma'am.
Fugierus,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Overton,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Carries 6-0.
All right. That moves us to item 10, and I'm going to give that to Ernest.
This is the reason for the amended agenda being sent out. This item was added at the last minute. It's a resolution setting a hearing date on a petition to abandon a portion of utility easement in the city of Springdale, Washington County, Arkansas. This would set the public hearing as required by statute for April 13th.
Move the resolution passed.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further comments or questions? Anyone? Roll call, please.
Fugierus,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Overton,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Flores,
Yes, ma'am.
Carries 6-0.
All right, item 11, comments from council members?
Mayor, I had one. Is there any, what's the status on opening up of the railroad crossing at Maple by the post office?
We are negotiating with the railroad. We have, Ernest sent a letter with a proposal to the attorney for the railroad. Last week, they acknowledged receiving that, and he is taking that to his client. And we're trying to negotiate the required liability policy for the crossing. Right now, we're pretty far apart, and we're going to have to. We hope that they'll continue to negotiate in good faith, and we will get that crossing open soon. We hope.
Did they commit to us when we decided to do this and to close Meadow Street?
No, a lot of this came up after the closure of Meadow, Mike, and that's part of our argument. We've already closed a very dangerous crossing and created a very safe one. But the council did approve, and I did sign the requirement for a liability policy, and to open Meadow, and that's what we're dealing with right now.
Open Maple.
I thought they.
Open Maple, I'm sorry.
I thought they'd already agreed to it. But that's my
No.
understanding. I guess I didn't. pay
No,
attention.
we're trying to, we believe, and I don't want to get ahead of our attorney here, so I'm going to be careful what I say, but I believe that the ask on the amount of the liability policy is unreasonable and unaffordable, and I believe that we need further negotiations to try and make our case with the railroad that they should reduce that amount.
So it's Arkansas and Missouri Railroad demanding that we have a high liability policy for.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm kind of like Mike. I remember that discussion then, and I think we all thought it was high at that point in time. Didn't really realize that we had to carry such a high policy.
They are, and well, that's the point of the negotiations, because I don't believe that high policy is reasonable either. But we'll continue to work with them. But that's why the delay on the opening.
Just so I understand, that this wasn't the amount that was discussed earlier. The amount they're requesting now is not.
No, it is. It is
Oh,
what's in the
it's the same
agreement.
amount? Okay.
Yeah, it is what's in the agreement.
Okay.
So we're trying to negotiate that down, and it's worth waiting. We believe it's worth waiting to open Maple until we get a reasonable response from the railroad. So we're working on that. Okay. Any other comments from the council? Department heads? Anybody? City attorney?
No, sir.
I have nothing.
So moved.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Forward starts the recording. See it recorded.
Okay.
Let it